Hello, welcome to France 24's film show. Coming up, the movie that many people have been taking aim at, the controversial Oscar-nominated Iraq war biopic American Sniper. The Cold War on Ice, Red Army shows how sport can shape cultures, redraw borders and change history. And French pioneering 1902 silent film A Trip to the Moon meets the writings of Jules Verne for production on the Paris stage. And our in-house film critic Lisa Nesselson is here for more. Hello, Lisa.
Hello, Eve.
Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. Today we're focusing on two true stories about serving one's country, starting with Clint Eastwood's American Sniper that tells the tale of the most lethal sniper in US history, Chris Kyle. We have a report on it, but first a quick word, Lisa, or two.
Well, I wouldn't have wanted to see a movie about the second most lethal American sniper, would you? It's actually a very skillfully told portrait of a man who had absolutely no doubt about the importance and the essence of his mission, and went to Iraq and used his skills in the service of something he thought was incredibly important.
Okay, well, Clint Eastwood's Oscar-nominated film about US sniper Chris Kyle has proved a success at the box office, but has divided public opinion. Some applaud the film as a tribute to US soldiers. Others say it glorifies war. Catherine Clifford reports.
It's the story of the most lethal sniper in US history. Chris Kyle served in Iraq, including during the battle for Fallujah. His mission? To protect ground troops by taking out potential threats. 160 people fell at his hands.
I got a military-age male on a cell phone watching the convoy over.
If you think he's reporting troop movement, you have a green light. Your call, over.
The film shows a role which leaves little space for hesitation.
Her arms aren't swinging, she's carrying something. She's got a grenade, she's got an RKG Russian grenade. She's saying to the kid,
"They fry you if you're wrong."
The patriotic tone has split viewers as critics accuse Clint Eastwood of glorifying war and portraying the sniper as a hero.
Clint Eastwood makes him into a hero, but I don't think he's a hero.
He just wasn't about killing kids. He was about killing enemies. So, you know, it's not black and white.
At the end of the day, whether they were innocent or not, he did what he felt was right.
The film paints American viewers a canvas of contradictions about their country, the need for a hero, a fascination with violence, yet also a sense of shame for the consequences of real wars fought by their country's troops. The plot plays on the parallel between war and family.
Hey! Send to my daughter, please, right now!
It's a big thing, this guy having to split between that life, the family life, and going back into combat at 4 different tours.
A theme which this veteran applauded.
It shows that war is destructive, and it destroys families, not just military men out there on the field.
Clint Eastwood took inspiration from the real Chris Kyle, seen here in 2012.
My only regrets are the guys I couldn't save. That's what keeps me up at night. But every shot I took, I felt extremely justified.
He was shot dead a year later by an ex-Marine who's now facing trial. Since the film's release, it's been drawing in the crowds and is on track to be one of the year's biggest hits in the US.
There we go, Lisa. We very much like the film. Not everyone did, though. The likes of director Michael Moore took to Twitter to decry its portrayal of snipers as heroes. Does it glorify and make a hero of a man who killed 160 people?
I don't think it glorifies anybody, and certainly not war itself. It's a consistently compelling and pretty even-handed portrait of a guy who seems decent and dedicated, but just isn't that deep. I mean, Bradley Cooper gives a very good performance as Chris Kyle, and whether you're killing insurgents or flipping burgers, I think it helps to really believe in the importance of what you're doing, and he has absolutely no doubts about it. He sees it as his country and his brothers in arms need him, and he carries that out. And far be it from me to snipe about the Academy Awards. Snipe, get it, but I'll mention that it's nominated for 6 categories, including Best Film and Best Actor. Some people think where it belongs is in Best Propaganda, but again, I don't really get that reading of it any more than I understood the people who were saying that Zero Dark 30, which also featured SEALs who, in a real-life mission on to get bin Laden, was actually an apology for torture. I don't get it.
But after seeing the film, do you think he's a hero?
Well, if war breaks out and you have a choice between an ultra-patriotic sharpshooter and a pacifist film critic, I think that the other guy would be much more helpful. In my house growing up, I learned that books were important, classical music was important, but if I'd had his parents as portrayed in the film, then maybe I would have grown up to be a church-going person who could kill and field dress a deer. You know, we have these different backgrounds. We're all Americans, but when a nation goes to war, it does it in everyone's name. But Eastwood and his screenwriter, they insert an awful lot of indicators that war is a raw deal for everyone. There's a disturbing brief encounter between Chris and his younger brother, who is also deployed to Iraq. There's Chris mentioning that the soldiers on the ground haven't had this kind of intense training they have. There's plenty of evidence that it hurts families and makes it hard to relate to real life. This is anything but a rah-rah, let's go get the bad guys sort of thing.
But other people are saying that it's a one-sided portrayal of the war in Iraq. Do you think it is?
Well, I think it's important that our guy has an equally skilled sniper on the other side. He's a Syrian Olympic medalist who's come to fight for what he believes in. So I don't think they're painted as just people that we have to go and kill. It's a little subtler than that.
Okay, well, let's move on to a documentary you're also very enthusiastic about, Red Army. To me, it sounds terribly dull, I'm afraid. Do we really want to see a film about the fortunes of Russian ice hockey players?
Do you mean, should we give a puck? Absolutely. This is one of the best documentaries I've seen in the last year. It's suspenseful, and it's funny, and it's heartbreaking, and it touches upon some major themes of the 20th century, namely the Cold War, nature versus nurture, and why in the world we are so willing to invest so much in the outcome of athletic pursuits as if it were gladiators fighting to the death in the Roman Colosseum. So we have American filmmaker Gabe Polsky, whose parents were Russian immigrants to the U.S. He uses stupendous archival footage and contemporary interviews to explore the training and the careers and the changing fortunes of the best ice hockey players Russia ever produced. I don't care about ice hockey, but I love this movie. Let's take a look.
The most popular sport in the Soviet Union. From childhood, they picked out the best of the best of the best. It was politics, really. The game for them wasn't just the game, it was also propaganda.
Cold War passions were running very, very hot.
Soviet military forces have invaded Afghanistan.
Sport were, in a way, a kind of warfare. The individual had no say.
My childhood dream come true. I cannot run away from my country.
What if we offer you $1 million cash? Then would you come and play in the NHL?
So you heard it there in the clip. The individual had no say. The Red Army ice hockey team played as a collective. No one player was dedicated to scoring the goals. So did Soviet athletes prove their political system was superior?
Well, you know, I grew up, I loved watching the Olympics on TV, but it was very, very much presented as commies versus the free world. And he's got this unbeatable protagonist in Slava Fedosov, who fought to leave the Soviet Union to play in North America. And what these players discovered when they got there was that they had been trained and conditioned to think of ice hockey as a ballet, as a chess game, as a cooperative piece of work. And those skills were not terribly useful to them in a place where it was like, grrr, you know, rip his head off, hit him over the head, take his teeth. And so these men were absolutely beautiful to watch, but that beauty really didn't apply. So I don't know whether you can translate that to saying, wow, look at all that precision marching in Red Square. That's definitely much better than people gathering on the mall in Washington, D.C. But that really was the way people thought about athletics. If you didn't win, then you were shaming your country and somehow had the entire political system to answer to.
Okay, incredible. I think you might have convinced me to actually go and watch it. Well, now we're going to talk about a play that pays tribute to two great French storytellers, the filmmaker Georges Méliès and writer Jules Verne. Both had fetishes about the moon. Tell us more.
Fetishes is 50 Shades of Grey. I think you're mixing up the movies. No. Well, you know, it's commonly accepted that France has given the world a lot of things, such as great cheese, great wine, great fashion. But when you think about it, Georges Méliès is considered the godfather of special effects. And he started out as a magician, and sleight of hand and prestidigitation were absolutely perfect to translate to the screen. He was born in 1861. Movies came around a little over 30 years later, and he knew exactly what to do with them. And you watch some of his films today and you think, how did he do that? I mean, the idea of the moon, you know, no one could dream that we would actually get there. Jules Verne made it seem like a possibility. He also invented a special effect which I just love, which is the substitution trick, and it was an accident. He was filming a horse-drawn carriage by the Paris Opera. The film jammed in the camera, so he had to stop it. When he started again, a hearse had taken the place, and so when they projected the film, it looked as if a horse-drawn carriage had turned into a hearse. We use that principle this very day.
And more than a century on from these works, they're famous works, does it seem really old?
You know, when you have inventive stagecraft, like in this show that's designed for children and on until February 28th here in Paris, you believe they're building a spaceship on stage. In fact, in the play, they go beyond the moon. They go to another planet with weird denizens. The play is set in 1910. They have a giant spider. They have giant bees. They have jellyfish mounted on umbrellas. They have soap bubbles. And all of that, those special effects can be done with just a little bit of tape and imagination, and very well-behaved children taking it all in. I think it absolutely still works.
Okay, sounds fun. Well, you can see Le Voyage Fantastique at the Children's Theatre, the Espace Paris Plaine, until the 28th of February, and we're going to leave you a teaser of that. Join us next Monday for the 23rd of February for our special show on the Oscars. Remember our website, we're also on Twitter and Facebook. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.